Hi, my name is Lissett. I identify as a female. I'm part of the Latinx community and I am Hispanic. Originally, I was born here in America, but since my parents were both from Mexico, they raised me to embrace the culture, language, and food that comes along with being Hispanic. Now, over the years, I kind of noticed that when I speak Spanish with my Spanish speaking family, I would often be criticized that I couldn't speak Spanish fluently. But when I spoke English with my English speaking family, they would tell me that I have that Spanish accent and that I cannot speak English properly because of that. So I was stuck in between two worlds that did not want to accept me. My Hispanic side did not want to accept me, and my American side did not want to accept me. So I was stuck in the middle, trying to fit into one, but I couldn't. But over the years, during my childhood, my first language was Spanish. And the reason that my parents chose Spanish as my first language was because they knew that they were going to send me away to an English-speaking school, and they wanted me to fully grasp the two languages without losing one or the other. I would have a few family members that did not teach their children Spanish because they got bullied when they were children because they spoke Spanish. They were the funny kids here in America because they spoke Spanish. So they didn't want that for their children, so they decided not to teach their children Spanish. But in my household, I basically speak Spanish with my parents and English with my siblings. With my siblings, it's a little weird when we speak Spanish together because it's not usually what we're used to. Since school we speak English, and at home we go and speak with them in English, and only in Spanish is when we speak with our parents. But during work, I use both of them simultaneously because there are a lot of tourists that come into my work, and they are often from Spain or Mexico, and they need help. And I'm the only Spanish-speaking person there. So I'm all over the place trying to help everyone that I can. And I actually did study a third language here at UNLV, which was Italian 101. That class I wanted to take because it sounded like it had a lot of roots with coming from Spanish, and I wanted to embrace a little more on the pronunciations of Italian and Spanish, so I decided to take Italian. And it was fun, but there were grammar structure differences and sentence structure differences as well. And it was a little hard, but it was really fun at the end. Now I will talk about what my household was growing up. And basically, my dad would be the breadwinner. He would come home. He would be done with his shift at 5 o'clock. He'd come home, sit down. That was the end of that. That was because he owned a business back in when the economy was doing great. Now, this is when my dad could provide for the entire family without having my mom work. And my mom basically stayed at home. She cooked, she cleaned, and she took care of all of our needs. She was the nurturer of the family. My dad, he would get so mad when my mom would offer to work when she wanted to get out of the house because she felt like this wasn't right. She wanted to do something else. But my dad, he refused madly because his masculinity was being threatened because he could not provide for his family and his wife wanted to work. Now, This wasn't necessarily the case, but that's how my dad felt. And over the years, my dad's business crashed back in 2006 because the economy went down a lot and he was losing clients. He would become so depressed and he ended up losing the business. This then, he had to swallow up his pride and ask my mom to work. Now, he didn't want to do this, but it was the only way that he can support the house and the family, and with all the other bills. So eventually my mom worked as a cleaning maid for houses because she did not have a high school diploma or she did not have experience. So that was the first job that she could find. And I remember how tight money was. We couldn't go out for ice cream. We couldn't go out for a movie. We couldn't do anything over the weekends. We would have to eat at home. And that was the end of that. That's basically all of our weekend. They would all be so sad. And going to my siblings, I actually have 2 other sisters and 1 brother, which is a total of 4 between us. And I can definitely tell the gender differences that my parents implemented on this family, because when I was in the 4th grade, I would have to clean my room, I would have to do my laundry, I would have to do everybody's laundry, I would have to clean the dishes, I'd have to clean the house. The house was basically my job because that was the woman's job, basically. And with my brother, all he did was go to mow the lawn. He would do the yard work with my dad. That was it. And I asked that I wanted to do yard work with my dad, and my mom told me, no, you can't do that. That's a man's job. Your job is to clean the bathrooms. And at first I didn't understand this, but with this class I actually I understood why these jobs, or like the jobs that society has implemented to fit each gender. But I remember back when I was in middle school, I would ask my dad for permission to go out to the movies with my friends. And he asked my brother, instead of asking my mom, if I can go out. And he said no. And at first I thought he was joking, but he said he was serious. That was his end decision. And my little 6-year-old brother decided if I went out or not. But when he asked to go out with his friends, now at 12, middle school age, he can go out with his friends even at night. Well, I would be told that it's too dangerous, that it's gonna get dark out soon, so you can't go out. But that's basically the gender differences between us. And also I had to move from my room to the garage, which is cold, and he would get the room because he was a boy. He would be different. He had different desires, he had different likes, so he couldn't possibly share a room. So I had to move into the garage, which I didn't like, but I didn't have any other choice. Now, overall, my family hasn't changed too much. They still have this kind of patriarchal mindset that the man should be the breadwinner, the woman should be the household person. And the only way that I can get out of this structure from my family is if I get married to a Catholic man under my with doing my first communion and my confirmation to get the blessing of the pastor. That's the only way I can get out of the household. If I decide to move out individually, they will not let me. Now, this autobiography made me realize that I can only speak for myself, my own experiences, because I can't speak for every Hispanic out there, because everyone has different views. Each person has different experiences. And this just opened my eyes to see that these are my own personal experiences. And now somebody else might agree, but these are experiences that I see with my own mindset. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Jessica and welcome to my autobiography video. So what I'm gonna discuss about is the little background about my family, and then how I grew up and see like the things I saw growing up. So my parents were from Mexico and they migrated over here in the United States, so they wanted to improve their life. Like their families wanted them to improve their lives. They came in at a very young age, so they didn't have any parents when they came in, and by my dad's side, he had to depend on his brothers, and my mom had to depend on her uncle. So it was kind of difficult for them to understand the ways, but they still had like back of their culture, like how they should be acting and stuff. So when I was born, I only spoke Spanish. My first language was Spanish, and it was difficult knowing because they didn't have anyone to translate in English. So they hired like a teacher that comes to school. And when my sister was born, we both learned English from the teacher, but also my parents also made us watch like educational videos where we were learning English, like Dora Explorer, all the shows that taught kids how to speak another language. So it was kind of helpful until when we reached going to school. It was difficult to understand some words, and then we had to learn more, and it was trying to like breaking that barrier between the teacher and me, and to my sister, because we didn't know some words in English, and sometimes we would get confused, and sometimes knowing the system, like not most all teachers speak another language, so it was more difficult. Even going to attending a school where all teachers spoke English, so my parents didn't understood how school worked because it was a little different system than it was from Mexico. So it was kind of a struggle, but overcoming it was okay. After years I started to meet friends that also spoke Spanish and English, and kind of broke the barrier, or like we could help each other. And growing up, I was able to improve in my English, and it became like important owning that skill, like knowing two languages, because not only that it helped me to advance more, but it also helped me find other open doors to new opportunities, especially for my parents. I became their personal translators. Also, my sisters became their translators in case I wasn't around. So it helped them to understand whether in case they're applying something or wanting to buy something or asking questions. or whenever we went to the doctor and they didn't understand what the doctor was saying, then we would translate it back to them. So it was kind of like a practice for us to improve to ourselves, and also like um to understand some certain things. um it was kind of beneficial, especially for me trying to getting a job for my first time. I put my skills like a bilingual, and it helped me got a job quickly, because knowing um most jobs are looking for people who have more like outside skill than besides staying within what they have. um hmm. Growing up, it was kind of rough at first. Growing up, my parents, well, mostly my dad, had that mentality where all the woman stays and cooks and takes care of the house, while the man stays home. The man goes to work and is mostly not in the house. And growing up in that way, kind of felt trapped. It's not because of the rules. It's just it felt like it wasn't. I feel like a woman could do more than, or equally do more as a guy could do. Especially growing up, I remembered when I was in, I think, kindergarten to first. I would play with these. I would play with my neighbors who were like little kids, and they were guys, and were playing like ninjas, or attacking one each other, like pretending to attack one each other. And my dad saw, and he got mad or upset knowing that I was playing with guys instead of like with girls. So he would tell me to come home and tell me to avoid them, and tell me that, oh, they could have hurt you. You're too, like, you're a girl. They're gonna punch you. You're gonna cry, and they play rough and women don't. And and that kind of stuck. That memory stuck till today, because it felt like he was telling me I couldn't do what other guys could do, like play rough um and be friends with guys, because guys are supposed to be like the superior, or like we're not supposed to like connect. and and I kind of felt like I kind of wanted to break that rule again, because I didn't like I had to stay of that woman figure, or when we learned like the other, knowing that um oh, I should just stick to like being domestic and do just cleaning or playing with dolls and all that stuff. And I remember growing up, my dad didn't even though he told me I should be acting like a girl's supposed to be, he would dress me up as a boy, or like made me play with toy cars, which it was usually a guy's thing. But I kind of liked playing, because I didn't know how to play with dolls. I was more like the toy car person that wanted to and play around and run around, get dirty. Um, it was something. Then going uh to middle school. No, yeah, to middle school. My mom didn't work in the time, and because my dad didn't want her to be like um he wanted her to stay home and take care of us, even though we knew how to kind of take care of ourselves. He felt like if my mom started to work, we wouldn't have that foundation where who we run to when we needed help. But after like 2008 hit, my dad lost his job, so my mom had to look for a job to maintain the household, and it was kind of difficult, because I remember my dad going back and forth, getting out of the house, looking for a job, and he couldn't find one until my mom found one. And then he started to realize, well, if she could start working, then there'll be like weight off his shoulders, which it did mostly, but it was kind of a struggle getting used to, especially my dad, because when he stayed home, he didn't know what to do with me and my sisters. He would usually like we'll have struggles like trying to say like brushing our hair or like how to cook, because the only thing he knew how to cook was either um um like basic like sandwiches or cooking meat, or that was mostly it he knew. And then he would ask um our one of our aunts to come over and help him with it. So it was kind of interesting, but until like once they recovered and he was able to find a other job, it kind of changed them in a way. They like noticed like, okay, I guess women can work as well. And I was kind of um relieved that he kind of accepted that women can also work and help maintain the household, because watching them, it was like seeing a downhill for us, especially for me, because I didn't want to live in a household where, oh, I had to depend on the man to bring the money, because sometimes because you could see the person struggling, especially when they're not working in a good job. And so it was something interesting to watch. And then when my other little sister, then I had a other sister in 2005. It was kind of interesting to watch, because we were like, I remember when my mom announced she was pregnant, and I don't remember what year, I think 2004. My dad wanted to have another girl, and we were like, no. And my mom was like, no, I wanted a boy, because apparently she wanted to like not only because she wanted to have a boy, just like teach him like to be like more like a gentleman, a person who at least like teach her the ways that she was learned. And I guess that's why she wanted a boy. But like learning from and I remember she bought like, she already assuming it was gonna be a boy, and she bought like um boy stuff for it. And it was like, okay, but you don't know if it's gonna be a boy or girl. And I just kind of played around with it till she found out it was a girl. She was kind of disappointing, because I guess she wanted to like have like a little child to like spoil too and whatever. And like and it was kind of ironic learning that in when we learned in class, like how when a when when a woman could give a son, it's like the woman is praised. I was like, oh, she was able to give me a son, and now I could be the father could pass their traits to the son and pass it on to their family. And which I think that's why my mom wanted a boy. But unfortunately she didn't. She had my little sister, which we were happy about. And then after she was born, more changes came in the family. Like more gender rules were being like broken, because we were trying, because my mom was trying to change the mentality of my dad of um like a woman could actually be independent and don't require to have a man around by their side all the time. But my dad, every time my mom left, my dad would always tell us like, no, that's not how it works. Like usually a man should do what she's supposed to do, and a woman's supposed to do what a woman's supposed to do, be following what a man's supposed to do. But watching them when growing up, um, it was kind of like me and my sisters. I told them that we should like break that rule because it was seeing them how problematic it was to see. Because not all women are domestic. Not all women know how to cook. Not all women has to be like covering. Should be all just wearing dresses and not able to express how they like to be expressed. Um, so I remember my dad. He always wanted us to just wear dresses all the time, or sometimes be like wearing like suits, like that you would wear in church, like how my grandma would dress up. And I remember when he was trying to pick out my clothes, and he would like pick out a suit that you would wear. What my grandma would wear for her reunions, and I would just stayed away and told him like I don't like the outfit. And it's like what, it's like but it's cute. It's like he would try to convince me it was pretty, like you're supposed to wear it to cover your skin because you're not supposed to be wearing this, or girls who shouldn't be wearing pants or whatever. And it was I kind of had to turn him down even though I didn't want it to, but I kind of felt like I had the right to, because I didn't want him to be controlled, want him to think like, oh, it's okay. I didn't want it to believe, um I didn't want him to think that I was okay to control over what I think I didn't believe in. And I kind of showed him like it wasn't okay what he was doing. um and somehow later on, years after going through that, I kind of felt um kind of relieved that he started to change, because although he still has the little tiny mentalities of, oh, like, oh, um the man should do this and that, and then the woman should be doing this. Even when my grandparents came over at times, she would start cleaning. Even and my dad and my grandpa would like sit there and watch television, and I would ask my grandma to stay because she was a guest, right? And she's like, no, 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 I need to start doing this because that's what we're supposed to do. And watching that, I was like, no, I didn't agree. Even when we ate dinner with them, my grandma would serve my grandpa's food, and it was like he would treat him like, oh, he's the king, basically. He's the king. and I didn't like that. He could have done it himself. That's why he and I was like very confused, and I didn't like the way it was, how she behaved that way. But I know she had that mentality ever since, because in their generation it was more like the man demands. He's the first to be served. He's the first, and the woman isn't. She's the second. She's the other. And when I saw my parents, my mom never served. My dad had to like grab his. But sometimes when my grandparents are around, we had to serve the same way that my grandma was doing with my grandpa. Like serve him his food for him, and we had to clean after him, which it was something I don't want to do in my future if with my boyfriend, in case we get married, because that's not okay. First, a woman isn't a servant, she's your significant other. Second, there should be equality between the male and the female. So yeah, that was how it was like growing up in in my family, kind of breaking the general rules, even though there's some, like I mentioned, it's still a little bit there, um but I also think it's just generations that we pass it on to we just pass it on to their kids thinking that's okay. And I know in this generation we're trying to break that, and we're trying to make it an equality for both female, even in, especially in the household. um and growing up that way was seeing like the progress and changes between my family was kind of in a good way, but sometimes there were downfalls because not all everything was perfect. There were some arguments. There were some times where the we would there would be arguments like, oh, that's not supposed to happen. But but now that's the way it was. So